I've made thousands of video and static ads in my 15 years of working in performance marketing. And I've built creative systems for some of the biggest D2C brands in Europe and the US. And in today's video, I'm going to be teaching you exactly how to think like a creative strategist. So what is creative strategy and who is a creative strategist? Simply put, creative strategy is the backbone of any good ad. It's the system that takes what a product or service can offer and then turns it into something that the customer wants and feels. It's how you turn ideas and insights into actual ads that perform over and over again. Creative strategy means knowing if an ad will perform before you even make it live. When you understand the psychology and the emotion behind the ads, it makes creating them so much easier. It makes it a calculated move instead of complete guesswork. However, the number one mistake that so many strategists make is they stop at ideation. Every single creative strategist should have some basic understanding of editing, designing, producing. They are basically the director of the project. And in fact, at Fraggle, that's what a lot of our creative strategists are, as well as writing and creating those angles. If we're filming on set, they're directing. It's their vision. The creative strategists put this together and they now need to take what's in their head onto the screen. So as well as having a firm understanding of data and why an ad performs, they can also understand the entire process of what goes into making the ad. And when I say understand the process, I don't mean do it. So many brands use their creative strategist as an editor and a UGC creator. That's not what I'm talking about here. They just need a firm understanding so that they know that when they're coming up with the ideas, if something is possible or not. You should understand how different camera movement can affect the focus of the video, or how different lighting can change someone's mood. And also how the design of a static ad can completely change the thumb stop. Because all of that stuff added together is what gives you an advantage as a creative strategist. And that's what's going to separate you from a creative strategist who's only just started and an experienced one that can churn out winners. So many creative strategists that I work with started in content creation themselves, and then they fell in love with the writing of the whole project and the data that went behind it. And so instead of making the stuff, they decided to make it from a different angle, which was, the start. And hiring people like that who have a real passion is the exact formula that I've used to create a production studio that churns over 8,000 ad creatives out for our clients every single month. But you also need to understand what you can put inside a video to earn the customer's trust and convince someone to buy. And no matter how much research and pattern recognition and testing that you do, it will still never come close to experience. That is actually doing this stuff. I often spend more time researching than I do actually designing and writing, because I want to put myself in the customer's shoes, particularly if it's for a niche that I have no idea about. A great example of this is one of our creative strategists started working with a golf brand recently. He spent a couple of days just researching the golf niche. He was asking me and my co-founder about what we do when we play golf so that he can understand why someone would purchase the thing that they do for golf. And that is what is so important. That's what separates a good creative strategist from a bad one. Do you actually want to spend the time to research this, or do you just want to use AI to write some scripts and earn a quick buck? For the longest time ever now, I've said that creative is the only lever that you can pull in your ad account to make a difference. And I think I can probably go one step further now and say that creative strategy is possibly the only lever left to pull. And the reason for that is because AI is everywhere. It does not take a genius and it does not take a long time to generate an entire ad with AI. And so what can brands, what can individuals do to separate themselves? Good creative strategy. Because it is the backbone of your ad after all. So it's about how you can think creatively. Although a lot of our creative strategists might use AI to aid them in the research or the writing of the piece, they still use their own judgment and their own experience to know if something is going to work. So if you don't understand creative, you don't understand data, then you're at a real disadvantage. Media buying is completely automated at this point. Optimization is also completely automated. So the only thing that you have separating yourself from everyone else is the thought that goes into the ad. And also one thing that's becoming more and more important in creative strategy is storytelling. Only a couple of years ago, I was saying that storytelling in your ads didn't matter. Right now, I'm singing a different tune because I was wrong. Storytelling definitely does matter now more than ever. Because of all those AI slop ads that are being put out all the time, customers are kind of getting even more fed up of ads. So the thing that you can do to separate yourself from your competitor that's potentially doing the same thing as everyone else is storytelling. What is your story? And that's why I often tell brands that if they have a great founder story, they should be telling it, because that right there is the thing that separates you from everyone else. And that's a decision that a creative strategist would make. So how do you think like a creative strategist? Let me walk you through what happens when a brand comes to us and they say, we need some new ads. Well, the first thing we do is we begin researching both the customer and the product. We want to know everything we possibly can about the product and who buys it. And to do that, we don't just blindly listen to the brand, because believe it or not, sometimes the brand is wrong with who they believe is buying the product. I actually recently found this ad for a bra brand, and in it they have a girl that has one hand putting on the bra, claiming that it is the easiest to put on bra.
This is the easiest bra in the world, and to show you how easy it is, I'm going to put it on with one hand. Now, I already have one hand, but I'm going to use one hand. Ready? One hand.
This is a perfect example of how research can discover something that you never even thought of before. There is a possibility that when they were making this product, they were literally just trying to make a bra that women didn't have to reach around to put on or flip around their shoulder. They just wanted something that was just super easy to put on. But then in their research, they found there was this huge sector of people with disabilities that could benefit from their product. And so the creative strategist probably started to make ads that include that demographic and show that use case. In fact, if you want to learn more about research, I did a great video on how you can use Reddit and AI to make high converting ad creative. It goes in proper detail about all this research stuff. Just interrupting this video to tell you a bit about a tool that I have been using for the past year or so called Particle. If you've ever wondered what your competitor's best-selling SKU is, or what their biggest revenue day of the month is, most of the time you have to get those answers by, guessing. Well, that is where Particle comes in, because it can give you that information using real data. So for example, I've just got up Skims and I'm looking at the past 4 weeks, and sales over time is $47.1 million. And I can see here that their biggest product type by a mile is underwear and socks. So if Skims was one of my competitors and I wanted to know what their most popular SKU was, then I'd be able to go on here and I would be able to see. And we can even take it one step further and looking at the exact product which is driving the most revenue. So I can see here that this was their top product, the soft lounge long slip dress. So again, if I was a competitor of Skims and I didn't have a product like this, well, I'd want to launch one. And you wouldn't have that data unless you used Particle. There is so many insanely useful tools within Particle, you will be an absolute fool not to just give it a try. I'm a customer of Particle. I use this to research our competitors when we're making ads for certain brands, and it is invaluable. Particle shows you what is actually moving. So there's no more need for guessing. There's no more getting blindsided by your competitors. You'll be able to look at data and rely on data. You can try Particle right now for free. There's a link down in the description if you want to give it a try and see how it can help your business scale. Now back to the video. And that brings us nicely onto the second part that the creative strategist does, which is the ideation, coming up with the ideas, coming up with the angles. What video can we do here? What messaging can we portray to get across what I found in my research? So in the bra example, the idea was to cast a UGC creator with a very clear, visible disability who would benefit from using their product. And the idea was, let's show how easy it is to put the bra on even though you've got one hand. It is the perfect product proof of how great and accessible their product is. It's a great idea that probably a great creative strategist came up with. Then after that is the execution. At Fraggle, how that works is the creative strategist does all the ideas, they write the script, they come up with who they want in the video, and then they'll pass that to the production team. And then the production team at Fraggle is set up with pre-production and actual production. The pre-production, they'll cast the people, they'll find the relevant locations, they'll get the right UGC creators, they will pull the project together. The first step in making the creative strategist ideas come to life. After that, they hand it over to production, who then either film it themselves or they work with the UGC creators to help them film it. At this stage, the creative strategist is just overseeing and making sure that things are happening to help their vision come to life. After that, of course, it goes to editing. Again, the creative strategist here is reviewing drafts to ensure that what they are seeing come out as the final videos lines up with what was in their head. The execution stage is often the most expensive and the most time-consuming part of ad production. It demands specialized talent, proper equipment, and a really good eye for detail. A great example of this is an ad that we made for MOVO. We shot this video in our studio, and you can see we've got like this lovely blacked out background here, and we're shaving a foot. That's the only word I can use for it. But without the specialized knowledge of how to achieve that black background, how to light the skin properly, how to make sure that everything is exposed, then this ad wouldn't look half as good as it does. And it also wouldn't have performed as well as it did. This is why having a great team is so important, and one of the things that I really try my best to do at Fraggle. Bringing together incredibly talented people who are really specialized in something that they do so that we can all work together to make great ads. And then finally, the testing portion. The brands test the ads, the results come in, and the creative strategist looks at them and then deciphers information from them. They'll look at hook rates, they'll look at hold rates and click-through rates and decide whether that ad was good and what we can learn from it. And then after that, they can even go on to iterate it to continue to build out the idea. Like I mentioned, we don't run the ads at Fraggle, but we do take a massive interest in the data because that can help us make future decisions much easier. For example, we might have made a bunch of high production ads for a client, but then when they test them, they realize that they all just completely flop. Now, that's going to tell us a couple of things. It could be that the production style just doesn't work, or it could be that the messaging doesn't work. So the next test that we might do is use that same messaging and do it via UGC, for example. And then if those results come back better, then we know that it was the production technique that caused the problem. The testing is essentially like a science experiment. You want to change one variable at a time so you understand why something has had that effect. I think a great example of testing here could be this podcast ad that we made for the black stuff. It's a standard podcast ad, but one of the variations we made was something that we haven't done before, and it actually gave us really interesting results. And that was to basically film the same ad on a phone through a laptop screen, just like someone has just found this amazing podcast clip. It's the same content, but it's delivered in a different vehicle. Honestly, when I made this ad, I thought that the one that was shot on the phone filming the screen was actually going to perform way better. But when we look at the thumb stop, it's actually pretty dramatic. The traditional podcast ad, where it was just the podcast ad on the screen, had a 47.5% hook rate. Whereas the one where I'm filming my screen, only a 34% hook rate. Quite a difference there. And so that tells me that if I do that before, that variation might not actually be worth pursuing. I actually made a great video that might be worth checking out if you're interested in the testing stuff, and that is where I take a budget of £100 and I tell you exactly what I would do with it to run better ads. The data that we gain from testing the ads can then help us improve those ads again. We can change the hook on an ad that had a really great hold rate but a poor hook rate. We can add a better CTA to an ad that had a terrible click-through rate. These are the small iterations that you can make. This is something often enough that the brand can pursue on their own because they can make them much faster than a lot of agencies can do. Listen, if you want to move from ad maker to creative strategist, you need to start here, because this skill is what decides whether an ad makes $10 or $100,000. Because the only way that you are going to stay ahead in this business, which is ever changing, is by doing the work. And that is why I review every single concept that comes out of my agency. It's why only a couple of days ago I was writing ads for some of the brands we work with. It's why I still spend so much of my time on set actually making these ads. I'm in the weeds every single day because that is the only way that I can ensure that my agency is making the best work that it possibly can do. And that is the only way that you are going to become the best creative strategy that ever existed, is by doing the work and doing the reps. And that's why our ads perform and why yours can too. So if your brand spends $70,000 and above on meta ads, I would love to have a conversation with you. Feel free to book a call with me by just scanning the QR code on the screen or going down below and clicking the link. And if you still haven't watched my video about the best ad formats to test, then you should probably go and check that out next. But until next time, hit the subscribe button and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.